Hey there guys, welcome to the meat shop. I'm excited to make this video because it is the how to make beef jerky video. Everyone loves beef jerky. It's a super popular snack and I'm going to share with you the recipe, the process, smoking, drying, etc. and the different type of cuts that you can make beef jerky out of. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe and we'll get right to it. Okay guys, thanks for tuning in. So we'll dive right into it. And I'll go over what equipment you're going to need to make beef jerky at home, the cuts you need, the recipe, I'll give you all that. To start with, most people are probably pretty familiar with beef jerky. You can also make pork jerky and turkey jerky and deer jerky and all that stuff. This recipe works for maybe not poultry, but all the other ones, pork, beef, and venison. Basically, if you've never heard of jerky before, it's whole muscle cuts, cut real thin, and then dehydrated or smoked, seasoned and dehydrated and smoked. And it's a snack. It's chewy, salty, sweet. You can do all sorts of different flavor combinations. But this is kind of the original, what I call in my store, the original beef jerky. It's super popular. I actually got this recipe from college. I went to meat cutting college at Olds College, Alberta, Canada. And this is Gord Greer's 1997 or 8 or 9 Canada's Grand Champion recipe, and I'm going to share it with you today. So yeah, basically jerky is a whole muscle cut that's cut relatively thin, and it's a dry snack you snack on. And it's typically made from hip meat, something big and lean that doesn't have a lot of connective tissue, because when you dry it out, the fat or silver skin, if there's fat or silver skin, it's going to get tougher. So you don't make jerky out of the chuck or out of the shoulder, out of the neck meat. It would be horrible. So it's usually made out of hip meat. A hip meat would be, an eye of the round, inside round, outside round, or outside flat, or outside silver, or maybe a sirloin tip. The reason they usually make it out of those is, like I said, they're big and lean. You want kind of leaner meat for making jerky. There's not that much silver skin or connective tissue, so when you dry it out, it becomes a little bit chewy, but not too chewy. You can also make it out of skirt meat and stuff like that, but usually, excuse me, you want to make it out of lean meat that's not too tough. You wouldn't make it out of neck, and you wouldn't make it out of shank meat. Lean meat that's not too tough. You don't really, you can make it out of whatever you want. You could make it out of strip loin or ribeye. The only thing is that those muscles are quite expensive and they're really nice to barbecue and stuff. They're always tender, so they kind of are reserved for that. And this hip meat, which is a little bit tougher steak, works perfect for jerky. And it's affordable. It's usually around the $5 a pound, $10 a kilogram mark. And today, I'm going to be using eye of rounds. Now, the equipment you'll need for this stuff is basically just a cutting table, a knife, a little bit of stuff to measure your spices out, a container, and then something to smoke or dehydrate with. I got a smoker in the background there, which I'll be using today. But if you got a Traeger, you could use that. You could do it on your barbecue if you're real careful. You can do it in the oven, a little Bradley smoker or dehydrator or whatever. So basically you take this and kind of apply it to the stuff you have. I'll make it as versatile as possible. But what I got today is, like I said, off the hip, some beef eye of rounds. Now I went and what's called denuded them, or trimmed off all the silver skin and stuff off them ahead of time, which I didn't record. But all it is you get your knife just under the skin. Anywhere you see fat or silver skin, you want to trim that off. And then I also popped these guys in the freezer this morning, about an hour before I started making this video, because when we cut these, I'm going to cut these by hand. Or if you cut them on a slicer, it's a little bit easier when they're firmed up. When they're soft, it's hard to get a consistent slice. So that's a little tip for you. Throw them in the freezer a little bit before you start. So we got meat, spices, knives, something to smoke in. That's basically the equipment you need. Beef jerky is pretty simple. You don't need a lot of stuff for it. So, like I said, I got these lean pieces of eye of round that I got. These are just double A's, but another little thing you could do is you can purchase triple A beef, or what would that be, in American, I can't remember, Choice or Prime. And it has more intermuscular marbling. So it'll have a little bit more of that beefy flavor if you're buying a AAA versus a AA, or a Choice versus a Select or whatever it is down in the States. But if you want it a little healthier, a little leaner, go with a AA or a single A. But it doesn't, it's not really crucial. Just lean meat off the hip is what you need. Then you clean up all the fat, like I mentioned, so that they're good and lean on the outside. There's no connective tissue, or as little as possible. Like a little bit's not going to ruin the cut by any means. But then get a good sharp knife. I find these big knives are the easiest for cutting these thin little pieces. If you have a slicer at home, obviously you can throw it on there, get it nice and firm in the freezer and slice away, and they'll all be the exact same shape and consistency. Slicers are probably the way to do it, but most guys don't have slicers kicking around at home. So a nice big sharp butcher's knife is what you'll need. Now, when it comes to slicing, there's a little bit we got to think about before you go ahead and dive into it. You really want to look at the grains. When I slice jerky, I slice with the grain because I want to, something chewy that comes off in strips, and you eat it for a little while. So I always cut mine with the grain, which is the opposite of what you'd want to do if you're cutting a steak. If you're cutting a steak for guests or for a store or whatever, you want to cut against the grain because that shortens the muscle fibers, which makes them more tender. Now, that being said, you can do that with your jerky too if you want tender jerky, something that's easier to chew if you're making it for your grandparents, or if you are a grandparent. You can cut it against the grain and it makes it a little more tender. So with the grain, which is what I do for my store, makes it a little chewier. Against the grain, going to be a little more tender. So it's whatever your personal preference is there. And with this hip meat, you don't want to cut it too thick. We could make some jerky bites, and sometimes, that's where I'll buy like a cow strip loin. They're a little bit more tender, or you could use a nice inside round, which is one of the little bit more tender hip cuts, or sirloin tip, or top sirloin, or something like that. And we cut them 3/4 of an inch thick in long strips, and dry them out and smoke them in the smokehouse and cook them, and they're real chewy, chewy tender kind of. But these guys, we're just going to make jerky slices. So you want to be cutting at about 1/4 inch thick, either with or against the grain. And that's pretty simple, guys. You just get your knife in there and nice big long strokes. Now it's firmed up. So that's going to be it's not a very good side. This is a better side. Real thin pieces. And you want to keep them as consistent as possible so that when you're in the smoking phase or the dehydrating / cooking stage, they're all going to finish up at the same time. If you got all sorts of different shapes and sizes, and one side of your jerky's thick and the other side of your jerky's thin, the thick side's going to be chewy in the middle and stuff. So you want to be as consistent as possible, shooting for about 1/4 inch thick on this hip meat, unless you want to make like jerky bites and you got a top sirloin like I mentioned before. You can cut them 3/4 of an inch thick. But just make nice big long strokes. See this, guys? That's going to be, get that, oh, that's going to be real good. And now when I was talking about, just going to bring this a little closer for you. When I was talking about that AA, AAA stuff, got the focus on there. You can see these little specks inside. That's called marbling. And the higher the AAA, or like the higher the grade, the more intermuscular marbling that's going to have. This is a AA, it doesn't have a ton, but if it was a AAA, there would be loads of those little fat specks. And when you heat it up in the smokehouse, that kind of beef oil releases into your jerky, and you get a real nice, rich beef flavor. So that's the difference between a triple and a double. But it's all going to taste good either way. So 1/4 inch thick. Got all these eyes and rounds here. And against the grain if you want tender. I'll maybe just show you that real quick. See if I can get a visual for you. Cut a couple against the grain. Hopefully my camera's good enough to show you this. Okay, there we go. So now you can kind of see all those little islands in there. That's because I've cut across the grain. Each one of those is little muscle fibers. So that's what makes it more tender. Versus this guy here, which I've cut across the grain. You can kind of see those long strips. See that there? They run kind of up and down the camera. That's what's going to make a chewier piece of jerky. So that is with the grain right here. And this guy here, where there's all the little islands, that's against the grain. This is tender jerky. Ooh, ugly mug. Chewy strips, tender. That's not bad visual. So there you guys go. You make your decision. I'm going to go ahead and slice all this stuff up, guys. Then we'll go over the spices. You don't need to stand there and watch me slice jerky for 20 minutes. So we'll be right back. Hey there, guys. So I just thought I'd give you a little tip here. So I've been slicing away on the jerky. And when you get to the last little wedge, it's kind of soft on the outside and whatever. And you're trying to stand it up and it's folding over on itself and it's really hard to cut. What I'll do is I'll just lay it flat. You guys can't really see. Just lay it flat on the table, like so. And then I'll put a lot of pressure on the very end so that it doesn't move. Then I'll take my knife, get it in just in front of my fingers, get it kind of down to that 1/4 inch mark, and then turn my knife flat away from myself and push and cut it out, cut out that 1/4 inch chunk. The reason I do it that way is if you're trying to stand it up and you're trying to get that wedge piece, there's a pretty good chance you could cut yourself. I've seen guys cut themselves before that way. These knives are super sharp, and safety is always a good thing to keep in mind. So I just pin it down with 2 fingers, get your knife just in front of your fingers, get in there, turn it flat, and then your fingers are behind the knife, you're pushing away from yourself, you're not going to cut your fingers, and you're going to get those last nice couple pieces, consistent 1/4 inch chunks without any danger. So that's just a little tip for you I thought of that I forgot to mention, so I'll carry on slicing. Okay, I've got all these chunks of eye of round sliced up at 1/4 inch thick, cut with the grain. And you guys can pick this meat up anywhere. Any butcher store, wholesale store has lean hip meat, inside, outside, eye of round, sirloin tip, top sirloin. So we got all that sliced up at 1/4 inch thick, and now I guess it's recipe time. So this is the recipe that I use in my store. It's super popular. You guys give it a try and let me know what you think. I'll link it down below, and as I do with all my other recipes with sausage, ham, bacon, all that stuff, I operate in grams per kilogram. So I weighed this stuff up after I sliced it, and it weighs 7.5 kilograms, just over 15 pounds. And what we're going to put into this today is salt at 15 grams per kilogram. We're going to put black pepper, 3 grams per kilogram, brown sugar, 14 grams per kilogram, California ham spice. Now, California ham spice is one that's kind of pre-mixed. What it is it's some salt, some sugar, a little bit of cinnamon. It's a really aromatic spice, but we don't use a lot of it. It's just 1 gram per kilogram. And you can pre-order that from wherever your butcher supply store is. I get it up in Canada here. You got Halford Hides, you got Unipack, you got JB's Sausage Supply. I'm out in Western Canada. I don't know what's out in Eastern Canada or wherever you're at in the world, but I'm sure they got California ham spice. It's pretty popular. So salt, black pepper, brown sugar, California ham spice. We're going to use garlic powder at 0.5 gram per kilogram, liquid smoke. Now with the liquid smoke, depending on your setup, I have a smoker, so I use just a really small amount. If you're using a dehydrator or an oven and you want that smoky smokehouse flavor, you maybe want to bump that up a little bit to 1 gram per kilogram, but I use it at 0.3 grams per kilogram because it's pretty strong stuff. And you can get it all different kinds of flavors: hickory, apple, Cure, sodium nitrite at 3 grams per kilogram. Sodium erythorbate at 1.5 grams per kilogram. Sodium erythorbate is a cure accelerator. Sodium nitrate is a cure. This is a cured product. It helps extend the shelf life. And in my smoking process, we're going to take it through the danger zone. So that's above 5 degrees Celsius and below 60 degrees Celsius. Oh, what's that in Fahrenheit? Sorry. 42, above 42 and below 150. And then water to marinate, create the marinade for all this. And I'll have that recipe in the link below. So here it is. And I pre-measured all this stuff out. So I took those numbers, multiplied it by 7.5 kilograms. And if you guys wanted to do this in grams per pound, just divide everything in the recipe below by 2.2045. It's going to take you some time, but then it would be in pounds for you. So salt. Brown sugar. Doesn't matter what kind of brown sugar you use. If you want to use Demara or you know, raw brown sugar, gold brown sugar, it's all good. Black pepper. Garlic powder. When it comes to garlic powder, make sure you're using a granulated garlic or a garlic powder. You don't want to be using garlic salt, because then that's going to be salt on top of the salt that we already added, and it could be too salty. So garlic powder or granulated garlic. The California ham spice. It's really aromatic. Sugar is kind of a little bit of sugar, salt, and not a lot of salt though after my garlic salt comment. It's not that salty. Mostly sugar and cinnamon. A bit of that. Aracure, sodium nitrite, or Prague powder. And then the sodium erythorbate, which you could substitute with ascorbic acid or whatever other cure accelerator you have. Just creates a little bit more acidic environment for that cure conversion to happen. Now I've got my water, I pre-weighed it out. Now I'm going to measure my liquid smoke into there. You can pick these up at any, actually there are lots of grocery stores. It's pretty common stuff. If you have a butcher supply shop around, hop online. There'll be something for you. So I need 2 milliliters, which is 2 grams. I got 3, which is okay. I usually blend it up in the water so you don't get a concentrated area of liquid smoke, because that would be very bitter. Like, sprinkle that all over my mixture, and if you guys could smell this, or when you get to doing this on your own, you're really going to like this smell. Pepper, smoky, salty. Now at this stage, you want to get a real thorough mix on, because this isn't sausage, it's whole muscle stuff. It's going to take a little bit for this to cure. So I'm going to mix the heck out of this, making sure you get that marinade over and spice mixture over every single piece of meat, because when you slice them, sometimes you stack them on top of one another and they'll stick. Meat kind of naturally has some protein extraction occur. The little muscle fibers try and connect again with one another, so you want to make sure that they are all, see, like this, separated. And every surface face of this meat gets covered with this. And one thing you'll notice too during this process is your meat's going to go from that bright red cherry fresh cut beef look to a gray, and that basically just means that the cure process is happening. It's going to go from bright red to gray. Now guys, I'm going to mix this for a little while, but when I'm done, what we're going to do is cover it up and put it in the fridge overnight, or 24 hours. Or at least a day, because unlike sausage, this is going to take a little while. A brine or a marinade penetrates meat at 1 inch, well, 3/4 of an inch a day to be safe. Since these are 1/4 inch pieces, you know, you kind of want to, overnight's just the best. You can wait 4 or 5 hours if you want, but just do it the day before you want to smoke it or dehydrate it. And these pieces here are already starting to turn gray. So I've got most of them covered, pretty small batch here. See that? The pepper and things, and well, it's still kind of red, but a couple hours it'll turn gray. So guys, mix it real thoroughly, give it a night to cure, and then we'll come back tomorrow and I'll show you how to rack it and the smoking process. Okay, my jerky has been marinating overnight. I just covered it so the top layer doesn't dry out too much there. So if you have a little butcher paper, you can do that as well. But you can really see now, I'll bring it a little closer for you, how it's kind of changed to a dark brown color versus that red, nice red. So that means it's good and cured all the way through. So now at this point, you're gonna either stick it in your dehydrator, your smoker, or the oven. And what you're gonna need is some racks or sticks and a little bit of vegetable oil or PAM or spray vegetable oil. If you guys want, I do mine on racks, but if you guys don't have racks, you can do it on sticks. And all you do is you just hang it over, making sure that they don't touch, see that there, one another. As long as your sticks are big enough to keep them from touching. Because if they don't touch, the outside's not going to dry off, and it's potentially not going to cook. Because we're going to do a cook step in this, bring it up above 160 degrees Fahrenheit or 71 degrees Celsius to get a E. coli kill. So if there's potentially E. coli or bacteria, it's going to kill them and it's going to be shelf stable. So sticks are an option. Hang them over. Just make sure they're not touching. But I'll use racks. Racks are the easiest. And what you want to do, I've actually never smoked them on sticks, but you can go ahead and PAM spray your stick as well. But just give it a nice, good, even layer, because otherwise, as these dehydrate and there's a bit of sugar and stuff in your beef jerky, they're going to stick to the rack and they're going to be a real pain in the butt to take off and clean. Now what you want to do, you just want to make sure when you're putting your jerky on the rack is that it's not folded over on itself and it's big and flat. Because the same thing as with the stick, if it's folded over on itself, that surface area is not going to dry. You're not getting as much shelf stability. And when we bring the temperature up, if it's thicker, it's going to take, and that surface area doesn't get a chance to get hot, you might not get that E. coli kill or bacteria kill. But basically all it is take them, make sure they're flat. And at this point, you can give her another toss and make sure you don't have any spice clumps in there. You shouldn't, because we mixed it thoroughly yesterday. And you just lay them out, making sure that there is, I'll just get a bunch done on the rack here, but you want to make sure that they're not touching one another either. It's worth it if you got a big batch and it takes you 2 rounds on the smoker, on your Traeger and your dehydrator and stuff to do that versus having them overlap, because then you'll have gummy, kind of greasy pieces. They're not enjoyable at all. So it's worth making sure that they're not touching one another and that they're spread out flat. So there's a couple on that rack, guys. And if you can see that very well, I'll bring the camera in here for you. Okay, guys, that's a little better view for you. But see, I keep a little gap between each one, and that allows heat to travel up and through, circulate around all the, if you have multiple racks, like in my smokehouse, I can get 8. And if you guys have the little kind of vertical Bradley units, it's going to allow that heat to circulate and travel through. So I'll rack all this jerky up here, guys, just like so, making sure you get them fairly close but not touching, and they're all spread out flat. They're not folded over on one another, like I said before. And I'll rack this jerky and then I'll show you the smokehouse processes. Okay, guys, so I've got it all racked up. I got a full smokehouse load. I got some of my own stuff for the store there, but you can see it's all spread out. None of the jerky's touching. None of it is folded over. It's all flat. So we'll go over the smokehouse steps. Now at this point, you guys are going to have to kind of adapt to whatever you're using. But I do mine in 4 steps. So step 1 is drying. I'm going to open up the damper on my Pro smoker wide open, and it's also got a damper down at the bottom. And open that wide open. That's going to let the maximum amount of air circulate. I'm going to do that at 150 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, if you guys are using Traegers and stuff, I know my model doesn't go that low, so just 165 or whatever, as low as you can go for an hour to get them to dry, because you can see they're kind of glossy and wet. You want that to dry off so that the smoke adheres to the jerky. Step 2. I'm going to apply the smoke. I'm going to bring the temperature up a little bit. So I'm going to do it at, step 1 is going to be 150 to 155. Step 2 is going to be 155 to 160. I'm going to apply the smoke. Step 3 is going to be cook. It's going to be 160 to 165. And that's going to kill that E. coli and bacteria. And then step 4 is just going to be another hour at a low temperature to dry it out a little bit more. To take down the water activity or available water to 0.7. So water activity is how much water is available in meat that allows bacteria to grow, and at 0.7 the CFIA says it's shelf stable. So again, real quick, we're going to do 1 hour 150 to 155 drying, 1 hour 155 to 160 smoking, 1 hour, 160, 165, cooking. And one last hour at 155-ish to dry. So that's gonna be the steps, guys. I'll show you one last little video when they're done, what they look like, and that'll be it for the jerky video. So we'll see you guys in about 4.5 hours. Okay guys, so the jerky's been smoking for 4 hours. We've gone through those 4 steps, dry, smoke, cook, and then a little bit more dry. So we'll crack this open and have a look. There's that jerky for you. And at this point here, you just want to pick them up and look how good that sucker looks. Nice and thin. And you want to make sure that, you know, they're not too bendy and they're not gummy looking here yet. You can temperature probe them. So wrap your probe around the, wrap your jerky around the probe and make sure that it hits at 160. But I know 165 for an hour and an hour at 160, these guys will have come up to that temperature. So there you guys have it. That's how we make jerky at DH Custom Sausage. And you guys give it a try, make it home, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.